Creo 2.0 Parametric Advanced Midterm exam. In this exam, we're basically going to explore how to create this this midterm exam project. As you can see here, many of these parts are already built for us. The only two parts that you're going to end up having to build are the gasket and the rear casting. But all the other parts are provided, and you just have to put them together and end up with this drawing in the end. So let's begin. My recommendation in this case, if we go to this, hold on a second. Is we want to first start by creating an assembly and mate the components as shown in the gearbox assembly drawing that we just saw. Model the gasket then, after that, shown on page 4. There's some details for that. Then model the rear casting. And finally, recreate the gearbox exploded assembly drawing. So those are the 4 steps for this. So we'll begin by creating an assembly. I'm just going to go New, Assembly. We'll call it Midterm 111. Oops. You should know better than that. In Pro E, you have to put underscores. You can't leave gaps. Okay, now we're going to begin with inserting the new components. So we just go to Assemble and make sure you locate the midterm folder where all these parts are. And in this case, I'm going to start by bringing in the front casting. Again, with the tools here, just usually go with the default. That drops the origin of the part in onto the origin of the assembly. And now we could go ahead and insert some additional components. So for example, we need one short bearing to begin with. We'll go ahead and we'll move that over here around the back, kind of get it close in proximity. And then we could just go ahead and select the cylindrical face on the outside and this cylindrical face on the inside of that hole. And then finally select this face, which is the floor of that hole, and then select one of the end faces on the opposite side of this part here. Now right now it's set to distance, but we could double click on this and we could just select coincident. And then it drops into place. And hit the green check mark to apply. Now the bearing is seated properly. Okay, let's drop in another bearing. Let's go to Assemble, find the bearing, the long sleeve bearing. Again, you could get this closer in proximity if you like. And we'll first mate the cylindrical face to the little cylindrical face that's down there. And then we'll select this end face to this face to go flush. And again, instead of the distance, just double click on that and change it to coincident. And hit the green check mark to apply. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring in another part. We're going to bring in the pinion. Let's get it closer. Drag it up a bit. And we could select the cylindrical face of the shaft on the pinion and align that to this face here. Okay. And then select the end face. If you have to, remember you could use the little arrows to pull it out if you can't see this end face, but select this end face to the floor of that hole. And apply. Notice I've turned off all of my planes. Remember, you can use planes to mate things too. I'm not using any in this exercise or this test. Now go to Assemble again, and let's bring in the spur gear. And I'm going to select the cylindrical face to this cylindrical face. And then this face of the gear to this face of the pinion. Okay, and hit apply. All right. So now from here we could go ahead and we could bring in the next part would probably be one of the, let's see here, another bearing. So long bearing, hit open. And let's get this over here. Just bring it up a bit. the cylindrical face to this cylindrical face, and then the end face here to the end face. Now there actually is, if once you model the other part, there's a slight interference, actually a very significant interference between this end face and the other part you model, but don't worry about that right now. For extra credit, I usually give that as an extra credit project to fix, so for 10 points extra credit, you can do that. Okay, now, anyhow, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and build the gasket. Now the gasket on the print, I don't really give you a lot of information because it's really just an offset geometry, and it shows you it's 30 thousandths thick. It follows the entire outside edge of the model, and it does have holes in it. And it's 0.375 wide all the way around. Really all it is just the faces of this on this end here. So we need to insert a new part. So under Assemble, actually I'm sorry, next to Assemble, there's Create. Go ahead and click on Create. And we're going to go ahead and call this the gasket. Hit OK. And just use the copy from existing, inch, pounds, part, solid. Alright, in this case I'm going to go ahead and go with the default. And I'm going to hit apply. Now I'm going to activate the gasket. And this is very important that you remember to do this. It's very commonly missed on the test. You have to right click on the gasket and activate it. Now you could start a sketch on this face right here where the gasket's going to be drawn. Hit sketch. And we're going to use the project tool. And we'll go ahead and do a chain. Select this edge and this edge here. And if you zoom out, if you see it highlight all the edges around there, you could accept. Otherwise, you could hit next if it did not highlight on the outer edges. Hit accept. And just hit yes. Do you want to create a loop? Yes. And then we've got the outer edges. Now we want to grab the inner edges here, which is right here. Again, I'm going to select this edge here. And this one. That's the one that's closest to the hole right here. So just be careful that you select the proper one. Select that edge. And this one, again, you're going to have to hit next until you see it highlight all the way around. And then hit accept. And yes. And also, might as well get the holes. Now, with this, these holes are broken up sometimes into 3 little sections. You're almost better off. I'm going to hit close on the chain type here. And I'm just going to actually use the concentric circle. Click on the edge, drag it out, make it equal to. So you get the little R. Click, and then you have to middle click to exit out of that tool. There's one hole. Do the same over here. Click on the edge, drag it out, then back in. Click, and when I say click, I'm left clicking. And then once it starts to drag out a second one, middle click to prevent that. Sometimes you might end up clicking twice, and you're going to end up with an invalid model. I won't be able to extrude it. I should say invalid sketch. So just be careful. You don't want to add duplicate circles on the same edge. Click, click, middle click. Click, click, middle click. One left. Alright, now at this point I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to go to Extrude, and we're just going to extrude that 0.03. And hit Apply. And there we have our gasket completed. Okay, now that we have the gasket completed, we could paint it, actually. Let's go to just to something so we can identify there's a difference. So you go to View, go to Appearance Gallery. Let's see what we have here. We could go with the marble. What's this? Brush steel. Go with the marble just because it'll give it an interesting appearance. It's going to be distinctive. So go ahead and select part. Click on the part, then middle click. There you go. Doesn't look exactly like gasket material, but close enough. Alright, so we're done with that. And actually, I'm just going to exit out of editing the part. So I can just right click at the top where it says Midterm and activate it. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select and insert a new part. So I'm going to go to Create, and this new part is going to be called the rear casting. Hit OK, hit OK, and again, instead of automatic, select default. Hit the green check mark. Now we're going to sketch on the face of the gasket. So let's go ahead and start a sketch. Oh, actually, before you do that, don't forget you have to activate the rear casting. So right click and activate. Very common mistake. I almost made the same mistake there myself. So hit sketch, select this face of the gasket, and start your new sketch. Now for this next part, if you look at the sheet that you're given here, let me rotate this. This is the model that we need to build. Okay. Oops. Let me drag this up a little bit. Okay, so we have some dimensions that are given. There's a flange, there's a boss, and then a couple extra bosses there. Let's go ahead and build that. Now what's nice here, if you're doing the top-down method, you're just stealing the geometry off the other parts, and they're permanently linked. If one changes, they all update, which could be, in most cases, a good thing if that's your intent. It could be a bad thing if you use it somewhere else and try and change those parts. Okay, so we are now, went ahead and we started our sketch. We'll go ahead and we're going to steal those outer edges again. So I'm going to go AB here, and I'm going to go to front. You know what? Actually, I'm going to go to back. Alright, now from here, again, we could use the project tool. Leave the holes for last, though, unlike this one. You don't want to grab the holes with it. When you shell it, sometimes you get error messages. So I'm going to go with chain, select the outer edge, select this edge here, and they should all illuminate, and you get accept. Just leave it at accept. Click on that. Remember, you hit next if you don't see it all go all the way around until you see it. Yes. Alright, now we just simply extrude that. So hit the green check mark, hit extrude, and this gets extruded 0.25 thick. Now on the print I do have draft. In the real world you probably would have to add the draft sooner or later. Anyhow, we're not going to do that. I don't make anyone do that in tests anymore. We do have to add draft in one section, but you can pretty much leave the draft off on this one. Alright, now what I suggest doing is, because the way the print is dimensioned, some users in the classes aren't that familiar with some of the dimensioning techniques that are used in there, like ordinate dimensions. And so what I recommend, just so you don't make any errors, is select this face on the end, on the opposite side, to sketch on. Because for this next geometry, again, we're going to steal the outer edges, and we're going to offset them though. So in this case, we use offset. Go with chain, select this edge here, and this edge here. And let's see, specify chain. Okay, it didn't take. Let's see if we can get that to work. And we'll have to rotate it around. Back to the back. There we go. Okay, I just went to AB back. I was having some issues with the edges. It was probably selecting edges off of two different layers or two different parts. So if it looks good, hit accept. Hit yes. And now we get to put the offset. As long as the arrow is pointing in, you don't have to put a negative number in here. So in this case, it's just going to be offset by half. So 0.5. All right. If the arrow is pointing out, remember you can just type in minus 0.5. Green check mark. Okay. And now this gets extruded. Okay. Extrude that. Flip it so it's extruding up. Okay. And the way the print is dimensioned, you can see here we have our 0.25, and then we have the 1.120 height of that. And that's based off of the 0 right here. This is ordinate dimensions. Again, most of you are familiar with that, but sometimes I see students that just miss the boat here a little bit, and they end up dimensioning from between the 0.25 and the 1.12. So to avoid that mistake, that's why I drew on the baseline, which was 0. And so we just have to type in the explicit value, 1.12. And hit the green check mark to apply. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and select that backside face again. Actually, I'm going to go to Sketch and select that backside face. And once again, we could go to AB back. Alright, now for this one, I'm going to go with a concentric circle. Just base it off of here, click, middle click, and change the dimension. If I could reach the dimension. Okay, what I did there, I had to right click and I selected dimension, and then I middle clicked twice to get out of the dimension tool. And then I was able to select the dimension. Just a little bit odd there, not sure why that happened. But this is going to be 3 inches in diameter. And now we just simply extrude that, drag it up, and let's look at our print. And the call out is 1.62. And hit the green check mark. Alright, once again, start a sketch, rotate it around so you're selecting a sketch on this back face, sketch, go to AB, and back. Let's do that again. So we'll go concentric, and this is going to be 2 inches. Let me verify that on the print. That's set to 2 inches. Okay, and then it goes 1.870. Hit apply. Alright. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the fillet tool, the round tool, click on round, and set it to 0.125. And you're going to select these 2 edges here and here for the flange. Be careful on the print, I don't really call that out. I have an arrow pointing to the flange just on the edge. It says 0.125, but I don't specify the inside edge. The inside edge should be 0.125 as well. Then everything else is 0.25. So this edge here, this one on top, and this one down here. Okay, now at this point, you can shell it. You're safe to shell. So go to the shell command and set the wall thickness to 0.25. Select that face and hit apply. So it should be shelled out. Okay, now you could copy the holes over at this point too, if you wanted to. I think I'll just do that right now. Start a sketch, because this is one of the most commonly missed features, and it's 20 points off if you miss it. So I'll select this face of the flange, start a sketch, and make sure you get those through holes in there. So what you can do is you can use the project tool. Oh, you know what? Actually, this one works better with the concentric circle. And then just go to wireframe. Let's try a different wireframe here. Hidden lines. There we go. Okay, select it, click, make sure it's equal, middle click. Click, drag it out, snap, make sure it's equal, middle click. Click, click, middle click. Alright, now we could just hit OK, go to Extrude, and let's shade this. Okay, make sure it's going through the right direction, so we have to hit Remove Material, and we'll flip it. and just select through all. Okay, there we go. Okay, another thing that you could do is put the cut through on this surface, start a sketch, select this face, and draw a circle. And this is going to be 1.447. Actually, I take that back. That's wrong. On the print, I do have an error on there. If you make it with the error, that's okay, but if you catch it, it'd be even better. It's supposed to be 1.394, because that's typical size. Okay, extrude, flip it, and remove material through all. Okay. We have to put another bearing in there before we're finished. Okay, now at this point, I want to go ahead and put some ribs in here. Oh, and there's a boss. So I'm going to go ahead and start a sketch on the floor down here. And I'm going to take the concentric circle, make a diameter, and then change that to the same what we just had, 1.394. Okay. Now you could make an offset sketch of 0.25 for the wall thickness of this hole, but I'm going to show you a different way. I'm just going to go to extrude here, extrude it, and it's supposed to be 0.75 high, and then we could actually extrude it as a thin feature. So if you thicken sketch, you can now specify 0.25, and we have to reverse it. So here's the flip switch, change the direction. So it's on the outside. There you go. So now we have our ID and OD created simultaneously. Hit apply. Okay, at this point, draft is required according to the print, and I do grade this 3 degrees of draft, typical on that face there. I want to make sure you have that. But notice the inside is machined, the surface, so there's no draft on that. So it's just supposed to be on the outside. So use your draft tool and the draft surfaces. Hold control and select both of these surfaces. Then the draft hinge will be this top face. And you can see you can drag this out, reverse it. It's supposed to just be 3. Make sure it's getting larger as it moves down. Okay, I'm going to go to the rounds tool, and typical radius on everything on the inside is 0.06. So put the fillets in on there, put them in on this edge too. Okay, now for the rib feature. This is our first exploration using the rib tool. It's actually very powerful, very nice tool that they have built in here. I'm going to go to Sketch and select that face. If I could get through there. Oh, there we go. I want that face. I'm going to start my sketch there and proceed to draw lines that infer. Okay, in this case, we might have to draw some center lines or construction geometry. So right on there, drag that out, drag a vertical one out too, and then take the line tool and just put in some little lines where we want the actual ribs to go. And now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and hit OK, go to the rib tool. Okay, you can see it automatically takes those little lines and creates a rib. Now the rib here is going to be 0.25 as well. What's nice here, just to go over some of the tools, you can add draft on that. I'm not going to require you to add draft here, but in real life you would add some draft. You could round all the internal edges or even round the exposed edges. It's pretty darn impressive. It's one of the most comprehensive rib tools I've seen out there. So I'm going to go ahead and add round the edges. And for the rounds, actually I'm going to change it to 0.06. It don't need to be quite that big. And hit apply. There it is. Actually, very, very nice tool. One of my favorites. All right, and that completes that back part. So now we could go and edit or activate the assembly at the top. Just right click, activate. Now there's one last thing we have to add, and that's another part. So we go to assemble and get another long bearing. Hit open. Let's bring that up closer here. A little bit further out. Align this face to this face here. Drag it out. And then select this face to go coincident to this face. In this case, double click, change it to coincident, and apply. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and explode this. So under AB, go to Standard Orientation, and now we could go to Explode. Actually, there's Edit Position. Go ahead and click on Edit Position. Now it does drag them out arbitrarily to some extent. Not good enough though for us. Just click on what we want to move, grab the manipulator handle, drag it forward, click on this part, drag it backwards, click on this, get it out of the way, maybe closer over here. Same with this, go forward. Nothing should be touching except the two gears, if you want to have those connected. Give yourself nice distance gaps between everything. A nice clean array. Okay. And now hit the green check mark and take a picture of it. So now we just go over here to the camera, which is View Manager. Go to Explode, go to Edit, Save, and just save it as your default Explode. Just hit OK, and Update Default. Close. And now we could save this. Actually, we could unexplode it. And now we're ready to go into the drawing. So this is the final section. So now go to File, New, Drawing. We'll call it Midterm, Advanced. And I gotta remember to put in the little underscore between the two. Okay. And we want to use the A drawing here. Actually, let's go with empty with format. And browse, select A format there. Hit OK. All right. Now we could just right click and we could insert general view. Just hit OK and left click. We'll drop it in. All right. In this case, it is in the isometric. You're not required to put front, top, or right in, as we've done that in the midterm and finals for the introductory class. At this point, I just want to see it exploded and at a decent scale. So here under view type, we're going to keep it on isometric. But if you go to visible, scene, go to scale, let's change it to, I think if I recall, 0.375. We'll see how this works. It's a little too big, 0.25. Okay. And then go to view state, explode view, use the custom, or use the default. If you forgot to do it earlier, you could go to customize explode state, do it in the print too, which is rather nice. Okay, and under view display, shading's okay. I would prefer to see hidden just because out in industry, not everyone's gone to shaded displays yet for their drawings. It's not very common still. Okay, and then the tangent edge display. Phantom looks pretty good. Usually hit apply and hit close. I go ahead and drag that over. To move it, you have to turn off lock view movement. And then just drag it over here. We could take that scale and move it somewhere, or we could delete it. Alright, at this point now I want to go ahead and bring in a bill of materials. So what you can do here is under table, and I hope mine works because my BTL or my table didn't work last time, so we'll see if we can table from file. And there should be one BOM table. Hit open. And unfortunately, this is on an older version I was trying to use. I haven't made a new one yet, so it didn't let me put it in there. But what you can do is you could create your own table. Just click on table here and figure out how many cells you want. So let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 discrete parts. So we'll go with, and we only want like 3 options. Like we want quantity, description, and oh, I'm sorry, part number, quantity, and description. And so we need count 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And then just drop it up here. Okay. Now what we're going to do is just double click on the first cell and go ahead and type in text. In this case, it's going to be quantity. Actually, I'm sorry, part number. And this cell will be description. And this cell will be quantity. Alright, to make some more room here, you can control select these cells. There is a way if you click once, twice, or 3 times with your right mouse button on them, they start to alter, but I'm just going to go ahead and control select because it's just easier. Sometimes it doesn't work that well, that other method. At least I've not always had success with it. Alright, and from here I'm going to go ahead and height and width, and then just the width here. So width, drawing units, let's go ahead, actually with the number of characters, let's make it 12. There we go, now we can fit it. Hit OK. Alright, so part 1, part 2, 3, 4. And normally you would definitely want to use the bill of materials. I'll see before the test if I could make a new one up and get it working there. Because this is the old-fashioned way of doing it. Really, no one really wants to do this anymore. Okay, the first part we'll say is the front casting. Second part, rear casting. Third part will be the gasket. Fourth part, pinion. And the fifth part will be the spur gear. And finally, we'll just categorize bearings. Okay, and I don't have quite enough room here for everything, so I'm going to right-click on those. And again, right-click, height and width. Change that to 13 characters. Okay, better. Alright, now the quantity of the rear casting, there's just one. Front casting, one actually. One gasket, one pinion, one spur gear, 4 bearings. And then we could go to create reference balloon. Part there. Hold on a second, maybe we'll have to go to annotate here. Okay, so basically, just because I wasn't able to bring in a bill of materials, what we'll do, we'll just put a note in on these. Just go to Note and select With Leader, hit Make Note, select the edge, middle click, and type in this case, it's for the front casting, it's part 1, hit the green check mark, and go ahead and middle click. And you can just do that with all these. So again, make note, select this edge here, middle click, oops. Do that one more time. Right, select, and actually we could put it in a box, or we could have a, actually let's use a box. Call this part, this is the gasket, this is part 3, green check mark, green check mark. So you could use the box instead of the arrow. Actually, I was hoping the box would be on the arrow, but that's okay. And you just go through and you add those in there. I will have to make another video once I get this thing fixed on here with the our bill of materials. But for right now, that just kind of gives you an idea how you could do it. But for the test, we should be prepared to do it the other way. All right, just one last thing, make sure your name's on it. So again, under layout, actually annotate, just make sure note's selected, no leader, make note, left click, and just put in your text, click twice, there it is. Okay, and that concludes the midterm exam. At this point, you would print it out and turn it in.